The silent alarm. The night sky over Earth was calm, the stars shining like tiny points of light. But far beyond the quiet beauty of space, something was stirring. A silent alarm had been triggered, one that would change everything. On the edge of the solar system, a new, terrifying presence had arrived. It was a presence unlike any humanity had ever faced. Earth's defense systems had detected the incoming ships, but the first signs were faint. At first, they thought it might be a glitch in the radar or some unimportant space debris. However, as the signals became stronger, it was clear that this was something far more dangerous. The ships were enormous, bigger than anything Earth had ever seen. They were coming fast and relentless. Inside Earth's central command center, alarms began to blare. The first few reports were ignored. This wasn't the first time strange objects had been detected near the planet. But as the seconds ticked by, the signs grew more and more undeniable. The objects weren't just passing through. They were heading straight for Earth. "Sir, we have a problem," said Captain Ryan, his voice shaky. He stood before the large holographic display, his eyes fixed on the incoming ships. "They're massive, far beyond anything in our records." General Collins, who had seen his fair share of threats in his military career, leaned over the console and stared at the data. His hands clenched tightly around the edges of the table as he saw the undeniable truth. "We need to prepare immediately," Collins said, his voice steady, though his heart raced. He turned to his team. "Alert all defense sectors. Get our fleets ready. This might be the real deal." But no one truly understood the scale of what was coming. The ships continued to approach. The world's governments scrambled to react, but they were too slow. Earth's defense systems weren't designed to handle this kind of threat. They had trained for space pirates, meteor showers, and even asteroid impacts, but they were not prepared for an invasion of this scale. As the alien fleet drew closer, the situation grew dire. Cities all over the world began to panic. News outlets reported strange flashes in the sky. Those flashes were the alien ships, their massive forms casting shadows over Earth's cities. People ran through the streets, unsure of what to do. No one had answers, and there was no place to hide. In the heart of the White House, President Walker stared at the live feeds on his desk. Earth's fate was uncertain, and the fear in his heart was unmistakable. What if they couldn't fight back? What if humanity was about to fall to a superior force they couldn't even comprehend? He stood up from his desk and walked over to the window. Looking out over Washington, D.C., the sky was slowly darkening as the alien ships approached, blotting out the stars. For a brief moment, it felt like the entire world was holding its breath. "Sir," came the voice of his chief advisor, Lieutenant Simmons, breaking the silence. "We've just received a message from the fleet." The president turned to face him. "What's the word?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm, though his hands betrayed him, shaking slightly. "They've detected the alien ships. The fleet is preparing for combat," Simmons reported, but his face was pale. "Sir, we need to act quickly. If these ships are hostile, we could be looking at the end of humanity." The president nodded, a sinking feeling in his stomach. This wasn't like any battle they'd fought before. The aliens, whoever they were, had come prepared. They had no time to wait. Earth's greatest hope lay with the fleet now. But even that was uncertain. Could Earth's defenses hold? The alien ships were now visible with the naked eye. Across the world, people stood frozen, gazing up at the sky. What they saw were enormous, sleek ships, their metallic surfaces gleaming like monsters from a nightmare. They moved slowly, deliberately, as if they were choosing their target with care. "I want every available fighter jet launched immediately," General Collins ordered, his voice sharp and commanding. "Get those ships into position. We won't go down without a fight." But the fighters and defense systems that were deployed felt small in comparison to the vast alien fleet. The alien ships didn't even appear to be in a hurry. It was as if they were testing Earth's defenses, probing for weakness, taking their time to make sure they could break through. As they came closer, Earth's forces began firing, the first salvo of missiles streaking across the sky. But the alien ships were faster, their shields flickering with an almost imperceptible hum. The missiles didn't even make it close. They simply exploded in midair, as if the ships were immune to Earth's best weapons. On the ground, chaos erupted. People ran for cover, but there was no place to hide from an enemy so powerful. Earth's military forces had always been ready for war, but this was something they could not prepare for. The alien fleet continued to approach, their shadows growing larger by the minute. President Walker returned to his desk, looking at the chaos unfolding on the screen. He wasn't sure if Earth could survive this. His mind raced for solutions, but there were no easy answers. The time for small responses was over. They needed help. "Send out the message," he said, his voice hard. "Contact the Earth's mightiest fleet. Tell them we need help. Now." As the alien ships continued their silent advance, Earth's fate hung in the balance. Humanity had one last chance to call for help, but would it be enough? The message had been sent. The signal had reached the distant corners of space, where Earth's mightiest fleet had been scattered for years. Could they respond in time to save the planet? Or was Earth doomed to fall to this strange and deadly enemy? The silence in space grew deafening as the first shots were fired, signaling the beginning of a new and terrifying chapter in humanity's history. To be continued. The call for help. The alien fleet loomed over Earth like a great shadow. Their massive ships, dark and foreboding, hovered just outside the atmosphere, watching as the planet's defenses crumbled. In the cities, chaos reigned. The skies were filled with fire and smoke from the failed defense attempts. Earth's military, once the pride of the planet, had been powerless against the overwhelming might of the invaders. Inside Earth's central command center, General Collins paced back and forth. He had watched the destruction unfold on his monitors, helpless to stop it. No matter what they did, no matter how many weapons they threw at the enemy, the alien ships were unstoppable. He knew that Earth needed help from the only force that had the power to stand against this kind of threat. "Get me President Walker," Collins ordered. He stood still for a moment, glancing at the screen showing the alien ships descending toward the planet. It was almost as if the invaders were waiting, taking their time to ensure their victory. They were calculating, intelligent, and far more advanced than anything Earth had ever encountered. The screen flickered, and President Walker's face appeared on the holographic display. His expression was grim, his face lined with worry. "General, what's the status?" the president asked, his voice tight with stress. "We've lost contact with the Southern Defense Fleet. The Northern Fleet is being overrun," Collins replied, his voice steady despite the panic he felt. "Sir, we need to send out the distress call to Earth's mightiest fleet. It's our only hope. If we don't act now, we'll lose everything." The president hesitated for a moment, looking down at the papers on his desk. The decision weighed heavily on him. The Earth's mightiest fleet had been gone for years. After the war with the Zarnoks, they had been scattered across the galaxy, lost to time. No one knew if they were still out there, or if they would even respond. "Do it," President Walker said, his voice firm despite the fear in his eyes. "Send out the signal. Now." A message was sent out, a beacon of hope in the dark void of space. The signal, carrying Earth's plea for help, raced toward the distant corners of the galaxy. It would take days, maybe weeks, before it reached the fleet, assuming they were still out there. But Earth had no other choice. Time was running out. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship of Earth's mightiest fleet, Commander Elena Harrison sat in silence. Her fleet had been scattered for years, their mission to explore and protect distant star systems. They had no idea that Earth had been under threat, no idea that their home planet needed them. Commander Harrison was in the midst of a routine patrol when the signal came in. The message was faint, barely reaching their communication systems. But it was enough. Elena Harrison had always believed in her crew and her fleet. They had been through battles, wars, and near-death situations. She had seen them overcome impossible odds. But this was different. The message spoke of Earth's last stand, of an alien fleet so powerful that Earth's forces were being destroyed, one city at a time. "Captain," Elena said, her voice calm but filled with determination, "we've received a distress signal from Earth. It's a call for help. Our mission is clear. We are to return to Earth and assist in any way we can." Her crew, hearing the command, began to prepare the fleet for the long journey back to Earth. It would take them several days to arrive, even with their faster-than-light engines. The journey would not be easy, and there were no guarantees that they would arrive in time. The odds were stacked against them, but Commander Harrison's resolve was unshaken. "Prepare for immediate departure," she ordered. "Set course for Earth. Full speed ahead." As the fleet made its way toward Earth, Elena couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled over her. There was no way to know exactly how bad the situation was. They would be facing a force they had never encountered before, and the enemy was unlike any they had ever fought. But if there was one thing she knew, it was that her fleet was strong. They had been trained for this moment, even if they hadn't expected it to come so soon. Back on Earth, the situation grew more desperate by the hour. The alien fleet had begun their invasion in earnest, sending waves of ships into the atmosphere. Cities fell one by one, as Earth's defenses failed to hold back the relentless assault. There was no time to waste. Earth's people had no choice but to place their faith in the fleet that had been sent for help. General Collins watched as the last of the defense fleets was destroyed. The alien ships had a terrifying technology that Earth couldn't even begin to understand. It was clear that they weren't just here to conquer. They were here to annihilate. The world watched in silence as news outlets broadcasted the first alien landing. The streets filled with panic. People screamed, some running, others praying, and still others tried to fight back, though they knew it was hopeless. As the days passed, Earth's people could only wait. The ships had left Earth's orbit, but there was no word from the mighty fleet yet. The only thing that was certain was that the aliens were not slowing down. They were on the move, and Earth had nowhere to hide. The approach of hope. The days turned into a blur as Earth's cities fell one by one. The alien fleet, with its unimaginable power, spread destruction wherever it went. The world held its breath, praying for a miracle. The last hope for survival was the mighty fleet. But as the alien invasion continued its merciless advance, the time for waiting was rapidly running out. Back in the command center, General Collins sat with his team, eyes glued to the screens. They had been monitoring the alien fleet's progress, and every update seemed worse than the last. Cities were falling at an alarming rate. Earth's military was being overrun, and there was no way to stop the onslaught. "How much longer until the fleet arrives?" Collins asked, his voice filled with a mixture of desperation and hope. The answer came from Lieutenant Simmons, who had been working tirelessly to track the incoming fleet. He looked up, his face pale, and spoke with quiet concern. "We're looking at 2 more days, General, if they maintain their current speed." Collins nodded, though the weight of the situation was nearly suffocating. 2 days. That was all they had left. 2 days to survive against a force that seemed unstoppable. Outside, the skies were filled with flashes of light as the alien ships launched their relentless attacks. The alien invaders had begun their ground assault, and the war machines they unleashed were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Giant mechanical monsters stomped across cities, leveling entire buildings with ease. The sky was filled with the deafening roar of alien craft, firing lasers that cut through the air with deadly precision. The cities of Earth, once vibrant with life and energy, now lay in ruins. The population was in chaos, struggling to escape the relentless attack. People crowded into underground shelters, hoping for safety, but with each passing hour, It seemed less and less likely that Earth would survive. At the same time, deep in the reaches of space, Commander Elena Harrison was preparing her fleet for the final stretch of their journey to Earth. She had ordered her fleet to go to full speed, pushing their ships beyond their limits. But even with their advanced technology, the distance to Earth was vast, and there was no guarantee they would arrive in time. "We'll make it," Elena said, standing on the bridge of the lead ship, her voice filled with determination. "We have no other choice." Her fleet, a vast armada of powerful ships, was composed of the galaxy's finest warriors and engineers. Each ship had been built for the most difficult missions, but none of them had faced anything like this. The enemy was unlike anything they had encountered. The reports from Earth were chilling, describing a fleet of ships with advanced technology and weapons that outclassed everything humanity had. As they raced toward Earth, the crew of each ship was silent, focused on their task. They had trained for years for moments like this, times when they would be called upon to save not just their home planet, but the entire galaxy. Elena could feel the weight of the responsibility pressing on her. The fate of Earth rested in their hands. Meanwhile, back on Earth, President Walker's nerves were frayed. His team of advisors gathered around him, trying to make sense of the situation, but the outlook was bleak. "We need to make one final attempt to communicate with the fleet," the president said, his voice strained. "Tell them we'll be ready. We'll provide them with everything we have." But it wasn't enough. Even if the fleet arrived in time, would they have the strength to fight back against the alien invaders? The president's mind raced with 1,000 possibilities, none of them good. 2 days later, Earth stood on the brink of total collapse. The alien fleet was closing in, their war machines wreaking havoc on the planet's surface. People had already begun to abandon their homes, fleeing to the last remaining safe zones. The government had issued an evacuation order, but with each passing hour, more and more of Earth's defenses were wiped out. And yet, amid the chaos and destruction, a glimmer of hope remained. A signal was detected, faint at first, but unmistakable. The mighty fleet had arrived. At the Central Command Center, General Collins' heart skipped a beat as the message came through. The fleet had entered the solar system. It was only a matter of time before they would reach Earth. "The fleet is here," Collins shouted, his voice filled with hope. He turned to his team. "We need to make contact. Now, tell them we're ready." The message was sent, and the mighty fleet responded almost immediately. Commander Elena Harrison's voice crackled through the communication system, steady and confident. "This is Commander Elena Harrison," she said. "We've arrived. We are here to protect Earth. Prepare for the counteroffensive." The room erupted in cheers. It was the first time in days that anyone had spoken with such certainty. Earth's mightiest fleet had returned, and with it, the hope for humanity's survival. The alien fleet, having underestimated humanity's resilience, now found itself facing a force it hadn't expected. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and the fate of the planet rested on the shoulders of those who had answered the call. The alien invaders had come with the belief that they could easily crush Earth's defenses. They had underestimated the strength of humanity, the power of those who fought for survival. As the fleet prepared for battle, Commander Harrison looked out at the stars. She knew the fight ahead would be long, and they would face unimaginable challenges. But she was ready. Her fleet was ready. And for the first time in days, Earth had hope. The enemy would soon realize that they had made a grave mistake in underestimating humanity. The final battle for Earth was about to begin, and it would be a fight unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. To be continued, the clash of titans. The skies over Earth erupted with flashes of light as the two fleets, humanity's mightiest defenders and the alien invaders, prepared to engage in the battle for survival. Earth's hope rested on the shoulders of Commander Elena Harrison and her fleet, a force that had long been scattered across the galaxy. Now they had come together to face a challenge unlike anything they had ever encountered. On the bridge of the flagship, Commander Harrison stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the approaching alien fleet. Their ships were massive, intimidating, and brimming with terrifying power. They had already decimated Earth's defenses, leaving nothing but devastation in their wake. But now, they would face humanity's last line of defense. "Deploy all ships," Alina ordered, her voice unwavering. "We're going in." No hesitation. Her voice carried the weight of responsibility as the massive fleet surged forward, racing toward Earth's atmosphere. The ships, sleek and powerful, darted through space at incredible speeds, each one a testament to the might of human engineering. The alien ships, with their dark, menacing hulls, loomed large in the distance, their weapons primed and ready. But Commander Harrison wasn't afraid. She had led her fleet through countless battles, and this would be no different. They were the last hope for Earth, and they would fight to the end. Back on Earth, the situation was growing more dire by the minute. The alien forces had already landed in several major cities, their ground troops tearing through the defenses with ease. Earth's military had put up a valiant fight, but it was clear they were outmatched. The war machines the aliens had deployed were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Giant mechanical beasts that could level entire cities with a single blow. In Central Command, General Collins watched the chaos unfold on the monitors. The alien forces were relentless, but now, with the arrival of humanity's mightiest fleet, there was a glimmer of hope. "Is the fleet in position?" Collins asked urgently. "Yes, General," Lieutenant Simmons replied. "They're entering the battle zone now." The time had come. The battle began with a deafening roar as the two fleets collided in the vast expanse of space. The alien ships fired first, their weapons unleashing waves of destruction as they attempted to wipe out humanity's defenders. But Commander Harrison's fleet was ready. Their shields activated, absorbing the enemy's blasts with ease. The ships returned fire, their weapons striking true, sending alien vessels spinning out of control. But the battle was far from easy. The alien fleet was vast, and their ships were equipped with technology that outmatched anything humanity had ever seen. Their weapons tore through space, cutting through shields and armor with terrifying precision. The battle was a deadly dance of fire and destruction, with both sides unleashing everything they had. Despite the overwhelming odds, the human fleet held its ground. Alina Harrison's voice rang out over the comms, her commands sharp and clear as she directed her fleet into tight formations. The ships moved with precision, working together to pick off the alien invaders one by one. "We need to protect the cities," Alina ordered. "We can't let the enemy reach the surface. Focus on disabling their landing ships." Her fleet responded without hesitation, launching a coordinated assault on the alien vessels that were attempting to descend to Earth's surface. Their weapons fired with deadly accuracy, taking out one ship after another. For every alien vessel destroyed, however, two more seemed to take its place. The invaders were relentless, but humanity was fighting back with everything it had. On the surface of Earth, the alien invasion continued. The ground troops, massive, towering creatures, wreaked havoc as they stormed through the streets. They were unlike anything humanity had faced, towering over soldiers and civilians alike, with weapons capable of reducing entire buildings to rubble. Humanity's forces fought bravely, but they were no match for the sheer size and power of the alien ground forces. In the midst of the chaos, a group of soldiers led by Captain Matthews raced toward a major alien installation. The mission was simple: destroy the command center before the alien forces could call for reinforcements. But the journey was anything but easy. The streets were filled with alien war machines, and every step forward was a battle in itself. "Stay sharp, everyone," Captain Matthews barked. "We have one shot at this. Make it count." The group moved quickly, dodging blasts from alien turrets and engaging in hand-to-hand combat with alien soldiers. Every moment was a life-or-death struggle, but they pressed on, determined to reach the command center and cripple the alien forces from within. Meanwhile, General Collins and his team were monitoring the battle from the command center. The reports were coming in fast and furious, and the situation was becoming more desperate by the second. "We're holding our ground," Collins said, though his voice was strained. "But we need to destroy their ground forces. If we don't, they'll tear through our cities." As if on cue, the first wave of alien reinforcements arrived. More alien ships entered the atmosphere, and the battle intensified. But in space, humanity's fleet was gaining ground. Elena Harrison's fleet had already disabled several key alien vessels, and the tide of the battle was beginning to shift. The battle in space continued, and the human fleet showed no signs of giving up. Elena Harrison's fleet had taken heavy losses, but they were fighting back with unrelenting fury. Each ship, each crew member, was determined to protect Earth at all costs. They had come a long way, and they weren't going to stop now. "Elena," Lieutenant Parker said, her voice shaking, "we've got a new fleet coming in. It's a whole new wave of alien ships. They're getting desperate." Commander Harrison's gaze never left the screen. She had seen the alien ships coming, but she wasn't worried. They had held the line this far, and they would continue to fight. She was confident in her crew's abilities. With every ship, every strike, they were pushing back the alien invaders. "Hold the line," Elena said, her voice steady. "We're almost there. Earth needs us." As the battle raged on, humanity's strength shone through. The alien invaders had underestimated the resolve of the human race. They had thought they could simply walk over Earth, but they had forgotten one crucial fact. Humanity was willing to fight until the very end. The outcome of the battle was still uncertain, but one thing was clear. Earth's mightiest fleet had arrived, and they weren't going down without a fight. To be continued. The turning point. The battle in space raged on as the alien invaders pressed their attack on Earth's last line of defense. Earth's fleet, though vastly outnumbered, had shown a fierce resilience that the aliens hadn't expected. With each passing minute, the balance of power seemed to shift just a little more in favor of humanity. Commander Elena Harrison stood at the heart of the battlefield, her hands firmly gripping the controls of the flagship. The enemy fleet had launched a counterattack, but Elena's fleet had already adapted. Their ships, battered but unbroken, moved with precision, coordinating every strike and maneuver. For the first time in days, the mood aboard the human ships began to change. There was a sense of hope. "We're starting to turn the tide," Lieutenant Parker reported, her voice tinged with relief. "Their fleet's defensive line is weakening." Elena nodded, but her gaze never left the battlefield. She knew better than to celebrate too soon. The aliens were relentless, and the war was far from over. The fleet's resources were dwindling, and if they didn't act quickly, the momentum could easily slip away. "Concentrate fire on their command ships," Elena ordered, her voice sharp with focus. "Take out their leadership, and the rest of the fleet will crumble." The crew of the flagship responded without hesitation. The mighty human fleet aligned its weapons, directing all its firepower at the heart of the alien force. A storm of energy beams and missiles ripped through the vastness of space, finding their mark on the alien ships. But just as hope seemed within reach, a new threat emerged from the shadows. A massive alien vessel, far larger than any seen before, appeared at the edge of the battlefield. Its dark silhouette blotted out the stars behind it, casting an ominous shadow over the battlefield. "It's a command ship," Lieutenant Simmons said with dread in his voice. "It must be their flagship." The alien flagship was unlike anything the humans had ever encountered. Its armor was impenetrable, and its weapons were unlike anything seen before. The sheer size of the ship was enough to make even the most seasoned warriors hesitate, but there was no time for fear. Earth's fleet was already stretched thin, and this new threat could tip the balance of the entire battle. "Prepare for full assault," Elena ordered, her voice unwavering. "We can't let them regroup. We hit them with everything we've got." As the human fleet surged forward, the alien flagship retaliated with devastating force. Its weapons tore through the human ships, reducing them to debris in the blink of an eye. The ground troops on Earth felt the impact too. Explosions rocked the planet's surface as the alien forces unleashed their full fury. Earth's cities, already battered and broken, were hit again, their destruction now inevitable. Back on Earth, General Collins watched in disbelief as reports of the alien flagship's arrival flooded in. The alien forces were pressing harder than ever, and the human military was struggling to keep up. The city of New York was under siege, and there was little left of the Army's defenses. "General, we need a miracle," Lieutenant Simmons said, his voice filled with frustration. "The fleet's taking too many hits, and the alien forces are overwhelming our ground forces." Collins clenched his jaw, his mind racing for a solution. What do we still have left? What can we do? There was no easy answer. Earth's forces were stretched thin, and the alien fleet's overwhelming numbers were closing in. But as the hours passed, a thought began to form in the back of Collins' mind. It was a desperate plan, but it was the only chance they had left. "We have one shot," Collins said quietly. "If we can't beat them in space, we'll have to strike from the ground." In space, the battle reached its fever pitch. The alien flagship's firepower continued to devastate Earth's fleet, but Commander Harrison was determined not to let this be the end. Her flagship, though heavily damaged, was still in the fight. "Lieutenant Parker," Elena said, her voice sharp, "launch the special units. Now." Parker nodded, her fingers flying across the controls. The plan was risky, but it was humanity's only hope. The fleet had one last secret weapon: specially trained teams of soldiers and engineers aboard stealth fighters. These units had one goal: to infiltrate the alien flagship and disable its main weapon systems. As the stealth fighters launched, the human fleet redoubled its efforts, distracting the alien ships and keeping the heat off the special units. The stealth fighters made their way toward the massive alien flagship, slipping through the chaos of the battle. The fighters were small, agile, and deadly, designed for one thing: sabotage. The units slipped past the alien defenses, their movements precise and calculated. They made it to the flagship's hull, where they deployed their explosive charges, setting the stage for a final strike. On the ground, Captain Matthews and his team continued to fight their way toward the heart of the alien invasion. They had been moving through the rubble of New York City for hours, dodging alien patrols and fighting off their advanced soldiers. It was a brutal, grueling task, but they had a singular focus: to destroy the alien command center and cripple their ground forces. The team moved in silence, each member aware of the stakes. The fate of Earth rested on their shoulders, and failure was not an option. "We're almost there," Matthews whispered, his voice steady. "Keep moving." The team pressed on, fighting through the chaos. They had to reach the command center, plant the explosives, and destroy the heart of the alien operation before it was too late. As the final units made their way toward their targets, the battle in space reached its climax. The alien flagship, crippled by the sabotage, began to break apart, its massive form spinning out of control. The human fleet pressed forward, using the momentary confusion to finish off the remaining alien ships. The alien forces had underestimated the human spirit. Despite the overwhelming odds, humanity had not only fought back, but had managed to deliver a devastating blow. The tides of war had shifted, and just as the battle seemed won, General Collins received a message from Elena Harrison, her voice calm but filled with urgency. "We've done it, General. The flagship is down. The enemy is retreating." The alien invaders were retreating, their once unstoppable fleet falling apart as their leadership was destroyed. Humanity had done the impossible. But the war wasn't over. The cost had been immense, and Earth had paid a heavy price. But for the first time in weeks, Earth could breathe again. Humanity had survived. To be continued. The rebirth of Earth. The alien forces had been pushed back, their flagship destroyed, and their invasion of Earth in disarray. But as humanity stood victorious on the battlefield, a somber realization began to set in. The cost of the battle had been high. Cities lay in ruins, millions had lost their lives, and the survivors were left to pick up the pieces of a shattered world. On the bridge of the flagship, Commander Elena Harrison gazed at the remains of the alien fleet drifting away in space. The massive debris field was a stark reminder of the ferocity of the battle. Their enemies were retreating, but the war had left scars that would take years, maybe decades, to heal. "We've won, but at what cost?" Elena murmured to herself. Her thoughts were interrupted by the voice of Lieutenant Parker. "Commander, we've received a transmission from Earth's military command." Elena nodded, signaling for the message to be patched through. The screen flickered, and General Collins' face appeared. "Elena," Collins began, his voice calm but heavy with the weight of responsibility. "The enemy is retreating, but Earth needs help. We've suffered catastrophic damage, and there's much to rebuild." "We'll do what we can, General," Elena replied, her voice resolute. "The fleet is still operational. We'll assist with recovery efforts and provide whatever support we can." "Good," Collins said. "But be aware, we may still have threats on the horizon. The alien forces we defeated were only part of a larger empire. There could be others out there." Elena's heart sank at the thought. A larger empire. The battle they had just fought had felt like a final stand, a last-ditch effort to save Earth from destruction. To hear that there could be more enemies, more invasions to come, was a bitter pill to swallow. "We'll remain vigilant, General," Elena said firmly. "We'll be ready." The transmission ended, and the weight of their next steps settled upon the crew of the flagship. For now, Earth was safe, but the reality of their survival was far more complex than they had ever imagined. On Earth's surface, the situation was equally grim. In the aftermath of the alien assault, humanity was left with the monumental task of rebuilding. Entire cities had been leveled, infrastructure was in ruins, and the human race was struggling to regain its footing. But in the midst of all the devastation, there was something else, something more profound. The battle had sparked something in the hearts of the survivors. It was a feeling that had been buried deep within the human spirit, overshadowed by centuries of war and conflict. But now, in the wake of the alien invasion, something had changed. Humanity had proven that they could stand against the greatest forces in the galaxy. They had fought back when all seemed lost, and now they would rise again. The first signs of rebuilding began with the survivors organizing and coming together. It was no longer just about survival. It was about reclaiming what was lost and building a new future for Earth. The world's leaders, once divided, now set aside their differences. The human race had faced a common enemy and emerged victorious. It was a reminder that despite everything, humanity was stronger together. General Collins and his team worked tirelessly, coordinating recovery efforts across the planet. Meanwhile, Captain Matthews, having survived the brutal battle in New York City, led teams of soldiers in the difficult task of clearing the wreckage and providing aid to the wounded. Every step was hard, every moment a struggle, but humanity was determined to rebuild. "We will rise from the ashes," Captain Matthews said to his team as they cleared another block of rubble. "We will make this world our own again." In space, the fleet remained in orbit, watching over Earth as the recovery efforts began. Commander Elena Harrison had never been more proud of the human race. The fleet had done its part in repelling the invasion, but it was the people of Earth who would decide the planet's future. "We'll stay here for as long as we're needed," Elena said to her crew. "Our mission is far from over. If there's one thing we've learned, it's that humanity has the strength to overcome anything." Her words resonated deeply within the crew. The battle was behind them, but there was much more ahead. Humanity had been tested, and it had passed. They had proven to the universe that Earth was not a world to be taken lightly. The strength of humanity had been forged in the fire of war, and now they were determined to ensure that peace would take root. As the human fleet watched over Earth, Elena knew that there was still much to do. The alien empire had been beaten, but the galaxy was a vast, unknown place, and new threats could rise at any moment. Humanity had proven itself to be resilient, but Alina knew that the fight for Earth's future would never truly end. It would require constant vigilance, unity, and the courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead. But one thing was certain: Earth would never again be an easy target. The human race had made its mark, and it was ready to face whatever came next. The alien invaders had underestimated humanity, and now they would know better. Earth had become a symbol of resistance, a beacon of strength that would light the way for future generations. Back on Earth, the rebuilding efforts continued, and humanity's strength was evident in every corner of the planet. Despite the overwhelming odds they had faced, the survivors stood tall. They were not only rebuilding their world, they were forging a new legacy, one built on unity, resilience, and an unbreakable will to survive. General Collins stood in the ruins of New York City, staring out at the horizon. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the landscape. The once barren city was slowly coming back to life, with people working together to clear the wreckage and restore what had been lost. "This is just the beginning," Collins whispered to himself. "We've shown the universe that we will never back down. We are Earth, and we are strong." A new dawn. The Earth had risen from the ashes of destruction, but the scars of the battle were far from gone. The fight for survival had not been easy, and the rebuilding process was long and difficult. Yet, as time passed, the world began to heal. Humanity's resolve had only grown stronger, and the human spirit shone brighter than ever before. As the weeks turned into months, Earth's greatest minds came together to rebuild the shattered cities, restore the devastated ecosystems, and strengthen the global infrastructure. Technology, once thought lost or useless in the wake of the invasion, was now harnessed to expedite the healing process. Humanity had learned from its enemies, taking the best of their technology and adapting it to their own needs. New cities were built, better and stronger than before, with more sustainable practices in mind. In space, the Earth fleet continued to patrol the skies. Commander Elena Harrison and her crew stood ready, their mission evolving. They were no longer merely defenders of Earth, but protectors of the galaxy, standing as a symbol of resistance against any who might dare threaten the peace. One day, Elena stood before a holographic map of the galaxy in the flagship's command center. Her brow furrowed as she studied the readings from deep space. There were irregularities, faint signals, coming from a distant corner of the galaxy. They were too far to pinpoint, but the direction was clear. This wasn't just an anomaly, it was something deliberate. "Lieutenant Parker," Elena said, her voice steady, "run a full analysis of those coordinates. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." Parker, ever diligent, immediately began typing commands on the console. "Analyzing, Commander. It might take a while, but we'll get there." The rest of the crew remained silent, aware that every mission could hold unexpected risks. Despite their victory, humanity was not naive enough to think their enemies were entirely gone. Elena's instinct told her that something was out there, a new threat, or perhaps remnants of the empire they had just defeated, regrouping and seeking revenge. The suspense in the room was palpable. The unknown signals represented something larger than just another alien fleet. They represented a test of humanity's growth. Could they defend their home again? Could they protect the legacy they had started to build? Back on Earth, life was slowly returning to a sense of normalcy. The world's cities were bustling with activity, and the survivors of the alien conflict were beginning to rebuild their lives. But not everyone was content to let the past remain in the past. Governments were uniting, building alliances, and preparing for any potential new threats. The human race was changing. They were no longer a scattered collection of nations. They were becoming a unified force, stronger and more capable than ever before. One of the most significant changes was in the military. General Collins, the hero of the battle for Earth, had been instrumental in organizing the new Earth Defense Force, EDF, an organization that would protect Earth and its colonies against any future invasions. Their task was clear: to prevent another invasion, and to prepare for what might lie beyond Earth. We cannot afford to be complacent, General Collins told the leaders of the EDF as he addressed them in a new headquarters built in the heart of the former United Nations building. Our enemies will be watching, and we need to be ready for whatever comes next. This is not just about survival anymore. It's about ensuring our place in the galaxy. Earth is stronger than ever, but we cannot let our guard down. The soldiers and scientists within the EDF took those words to heart. Their work was no longer just about repairing what was broken. It was about preparing for the future, a future that might hold even greater challenges. Back in space, Commander Harrison's concerns grew as the data from the unknown signals began to come in. Parker's analysis had confirmed Alina's suspicions. The signals were deliberate, originating from a location known for being a hub of the alien empire's remnants. If the enemy had regrouped in that sector, it could mean another large-scale threat to humanity. "Alina, we've identified the source," Parker said, her voice filled with tension. "It's a stronghold of the alien empire, a fleet station that was thought to have been destroyed in the previous war." Alina's pulse quickened as the pieces began to fall into place. The fleet station, a massive hub of alien power, had survived the war, and now it was calling for reinforcements. There was no doubt in her mind. This was no mere anomaly. The alien empire had been biding its time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. "This is it," Alina muttered. "The galaxy's not done with us yet." She turned to the crew, who were already prepared for the fight ahead. "Prepare the fleet for departure. We're going to pay a visit to our old friends. Let's make sure they know Earth is no longer an easy target." As the Earth fleet set its course toward the alien stronghold, the weight of what was ahead settled heavily on Alina. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The fleet was not only fighting for their survival, but for the future of all humanity. Their resolve was unshakable. They would not allow Earth to fall again, no matter the cost. While Earth worked to rebuild its world, they had to prepare for the unknown. In the depths of space, new threats loomed. The future of humanity depended on their ability to remain strong, united, and vigilant. But the human race had proven something in the fight for Earth. No matter the odds, they would never give up. They would rise again, fight again, and stand as a beacon of hope for the galaxy. And so, the stage was set. The fate of humanity, its future, its legacy, would once again be decided in the stars.